Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. There's so much that confuses me about this entitled mother. Like, there are the people in the U.S. with the argument that since you're in the U.S., you should speak English. But in Mexico? What else was she expecting? But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Entitled mom demanded my brother and me speak English in Mexico. This happened 7-ish years ago. My brother was 20 and I was 18. Cast is as usual, just a plus B for brother. My brother and I are baby-faced. Right now I still get ID'd even though I'm 25, legal drinking age is 18, and my brother still gets ID'd too. My family tends to travel together at least once a year. We like going to beaches within the country like Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, or Los Cabos. This time we were in Cancun in the summer. I was chilling on some chases with my brother, sipping on tamarind margaritas, micheladas, and gossiping over dumb family stuff when an older lady came and asked us where we got our drinks in English. She was a nice lady, asked us very kindly, and asked if we spoke English. We signaled her to the nearest hotel's bar, and she went off. This is where the EM came into play. She was sitting on the chases beside us. She was not a typical Karen-looking lady. She was a typical gringo and Cancun-looking lady. Lord Farquaad's hair and blonde, a bikini a little too small for her, cooked crab skin tone, cat butthole lips, and big old sunglasses. EM. Hey, you kids, I just noticed you speak English. Could you speak English while you're here beside us? My son doesn't like not understanding you. The boy was minding his own business, making sandcastles a few meters away from us. B. No. EM. What do you mean, no? B. We have no obligation to speak in another language for your son's convenience. EM. Gasp. This is unacceptable. Where are your parents? You ill-bred children, why are you even drinking alcohol? That is illegal. Just wait until your parents see you. Me. Just leave us alone. EM. Excuse me? Did your parents teach you no manners? Me. They sure as hell taught us to mind our own business. This is when EM went back crap, threw our alcohol to the sand, and started screaming. EM. It's not that hard to speak in English, brats. You should not even be drinking. You don't look 21. B. You're in Mexico. F off. She stormed off and grabbed a random hotel staff dude. She screamed at him that we should be removed because we were being super rude. I explained to the dude in Spanish that this gringo was trying to make us speak in English to each other. The dude, in broken English, tried to appease her. This is when our own entitled mother came to play. She doesn't speak English, but went livid when she saw some random crab screaming at us. She started screaming at her in Spanish so you could hear, "Is this how you treat tourists?" I rolled my eyes so hard at this and ended up screaming, "We are tourists here too!" Poor staff dude was all baffled. It was in summer, so it was packed, and surely he didn't need more crap to his already tiresome day. People were starting to gather around, so my father, pretty gentle dude, just said, "I'm hungry, wife." "Aren't you too hungry, children?" He said vieja in Spanish, which is actually old lady, but it's an endearment term. My brother profusely apologized to the staff dude while I picked up our stuff from the chases, and as I left, I flipped the EM off without my parents noticing. Before we left, my dad said in English, "Now you can annoy your own family. Bye." She was fuming. Her husband and her own mother seemed unmoved. I bet they were used to her. And our second story. A man feels entitled to a free premium seat because they won't apologize for lying to him. This happened last night and was one of the most satisfying encounters I've ever had with someone with a downright comical sense of entitlement. I took a flight from San Francisco to Boston that was in the afternoon after a full day of work. I have a $200 airline credit to use on just this one flight before I lose it at the end of the year, so I was debating between trying to drink through $200 of free booze over the 6-hour flight versus upgrading my seat to the front row. In the end, I decided to go with the seat upgrade, and I picked the window seat in the absolute front row of the plane with a shameful amount of legroom and an empty middle seat. I never get upgrades, so this felt like quite the luxury to me. Turns out the rest of the plane was completely full, so I was feeling pretty good about this decision. However, I still had some work to do on my laptop and was disappointed that because there were no seats in front, I could not keep my backpack in front of me, and I realized I had to go fight the mob of people still boarding for some overhead bin space before they all filled up. There was a very nice businessman sitting in the aisle seat in my row who stood up to help me. This is relevant later. The overhead bins filled very quickly, at which point the flight attendant at the plane door started announcing, "Overhead bins are almost full. Put your bags in the first one you see," to all the people still boarding the plane. Now, here comes the last man to board the plane. He's probably about 6'3", and he runs in and kind of shoots the crap with one of the flight attendants for a few minutes, and I'm not paying too much attention, besides hoping he's not going to take the middle seat, and the fact that he's talking very loudly and he seems to be a bit drunk. For the rest of the story, I will call this man Dirk, because I don't know what the male version of a Karen is. Nobody's in any rush to start getting ready for takeoff, and we soon know why. The pilot gets on the loudspeaker and says because of the weather in Boston, we need to wait here before we can take off. Now, Dirk has stopped talking to the flight attendant and starts to walk down the aisle, sees our empty middle seat, and announces, "Cool, I'll take this first seat because it's empty," throws his backpack down in the space in front of us, and slams himself into the middle seat. Now, of course, I wouldn't have minded if someone had purchased the middle seat, but now I'm grumbling a bit internally, thinking about how I spent my airline credit on this upgrade instead of booze, while this guy's going to get a nice seat for free. And nobody immediately came up to him and asked him to move his backpack, so I'm also frustrated that I had to go put mine away and now his bag's in front of my feet. And finally, Dirk is being extremely loud and vocal. For example, when the pilot came on the loudspeaker again and said, "We'll be waiting 45 minutes before takeoff," Dirk yelled out, "Man, this is some bull crap." Stuff like that over and over. So at this point, I haven't said anything to him, but I'm sitting there, probably looking like this. It's been about 5 minutes already, not too long, but I'm starting to think they're just going to let this fly. Then comes one of the flight attendants and walks up to this guy and says, "Sir, can I please see your boarding pass?" The man laughs a bit and says he just showed it at the gate, and the flight attendant repeats that he would like to see it. So the man starts rummaging through his backpack and hands the attendant some crumpled up paper and then goes back to his phone. The flight attendant uncrumples it and now starts to look annoyed and goes, "Sir, you just handed me a receipt. Try again." The man starts belly laughing like, "Oh, my bad," then pulls his boarding pass from his pocket. Of course, he's in 32B, and the flight attendant asks him to go to his assigned seat. Now they start to fight, with Dirk saying, "But the guy said to take the first available seat. Nobody's sitting here anyway," and the attendant repeating that he didn't know how he heard that, but people need to pay to upgrade to these seats, and he needs to go to his assigned seat now. Things started to get heated, and Dirk is full-on screaming, now saying, "Why did he say to take the first available seat then? Why was he lying?" The attendant is yelling back, "This isn't Southwest," and the rest of the plane is silent and watching. And now at this point, I'm guessing Dirk misrepresented the guy at the door, saying to throw your bags in the first available overhead bin, but I didn't want to get involved and have this potentially drunk man next to me direct his anger at me. Edit. The flight attendant announcing this was being very clear about this being for bags as well, so I think Dirk was just making up excuses. At this point, there are 3 flight attendants in the aisle arguing with Dirk, who still scream repeating the same thing about being lied to over and over. They're saying he needs to move or get kicked off the plane, and Dirk is replying that of course he would rather make it home to Boston tonight than get kicked off, but he needs an explanation first as to why they lied to him. In comes a boss of a lady who wasn't taking any of Dirk's crap to join the argument. She interrupts Dirk and says, "Look, you have 2 options. Take your assigned seat or get off the plane. I don't care what you think you heard. I don't know why we're still having this conversation." Then when Dirk would open his mouth to continue arguing, the lady would hold up her hand and yell, "Ah, ah, ah," like a mother silencing their toddler having a tantrum, and I'm sitting there 6 inches away from the action watching this all go down. Dirk sits there in silence for a few moments, mouth open, looking at this lady, and then stays sitting in the seat and looks back at his phone and starts mumbling again in a low voice about being lied to. At this point, the 3 flight attendants walk away, and Dirk seems to think that he's won. But lo and behold, 1 minute later, security comes on the plane. Now seeing this, Dirk stands straight up and says, "Okay, I'll go take my seat," and starts to walk down the aisle, but they stop him and remove him from the plane, and we didn't see him again. And me and the nice man sitting in the aisle seat ended up getting free drinks for the rest of the flight for our troubles. I wonder if these people ever look back on these situations and realize they were the antagonists? And our last story. I didn't allow my brother's family to live on my property. My brother, 55-year-old male, and I, 53-year-old male, grew up on a working ranch. My brother wasn't interested in helping around the ranch and told my parents that if he was given the ranch, he would sell the entire property. My brother stored a ton of junk in one of the barns and had no interest in wanting to get rid of anything. I was not interested in selling the property and would invest into fixing up the ranch. Our parents passed away and I was given the ranch. I told my brother that if he wanted any of the junk that he left behind, he could come and grab it before I got rid of it. I gave him 2 months to come out and he never showed or expressed interest. I decided to fix all the buildings and build another house on the property for family. My wife's father moved into the house as he couldn't afford living on his own. He passed away recently and we've been working on cleaning the house. Our daughter, 26-year-old female, has been a huge help around the house and helps around the ranch. I plan on leaving the ranch to her as she has expressed interest. My brother went off to live in the city with his wife and 2 kids. When I was given the ranch, my brother changed and he dropped all contact with the family. I did reach out to let him know when our parents passed and heard nothing. My brother sent me a long message that his family was having trouble affording his current living situation and wanted to live in the other house. I was hesitant about him moving onto the property as I was not sure what he would do with the house or property. I told him that I felt horrible about his situation, but I've not heard from him in years and was not ready for someone to move into the house. My brother went on to blaming me if his family became homeless and that it was my fault for going no contact with him. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.